Hello everyone, George DeSantis here with a look at the market for the week ending October 20th, 2017. A little depressed because the Yankees didn't get into the World Series. I'm quite a Yankees fan. In any case, before we start to look at charts, I'm going to put up the disclaimer. You can read that, and then we will go to some charts. So having put that up, and you can pause and read that, let's begin to look at some charts. So the first chart we look at is as we often do, is a weekly chart of the S&P 500. And as you can see here, this weekly chart is showing us that the S&P continues to trend up very nicely. In fact, it gapped up last week. And when we look at Williams percent R, it remains above the 60% line, which is very bullish on a weekly chart especially. MACD trended up from below the zero line and it continues to trend up. And the ADX and Directional Movement Index are now showing us a nice uptrend. The dots would be the ADX line. I show it in dots. And this would be Directional Movement Index, which is DI plus, DI minus, when DI plus is above minus, and ADX is trending up. We have an uptrend. We can also see in the price chart as well. So weekly chart is looking still very, very bullish. Let's take a look at the daily chart. On the daily chart, if I compress it a bit, you can see those calculations that I made some time ago for these two triangles. This first triangle set a target of 25 to 22. We hit that. We also hit this 25.47 target from this other triangle here. And so now we're off to the races. Now we're at 25.75. So this thing has surpassed the targets for those two triangles. And we're nowhere near the upper Bollinger Band. So that's very encouraging. Notice the gap up here on Friday. It even gapped up again on Friday. This is looking really nice. I mean, there are some people who are looking for 2600 target on the S&P, and we're pretty close to that, 25 points away. Now, Williams percent R remains above the 60% line, and MACD came down a bit, but didn't go below the zero line and is now trending up a little above the zero line from above it. And of course, Directional Movement Index, same as on the weekly chart, very nice uptrend, indicating a very nice uptrend. So that's so far as the S&P 500, the general market is concerned, we remain in a very nice uptrend. We can take a look at some individual stocks. And what I'd like to do is to take a look at a few stocks here first before we go to the best choice software for the seasonals, etc. So let's go to the next stock. First thing I want to visit is Amazon, the weekly chart. I remember I showed a head and shoulder pattern here. Here's your head, shoulder, shoulder, and this is a trend line that goes way back and it touches the top of the shoulder here. Notice what has happened is that Amazon hit the neckline. It came down from the shoulder, hit the neckline, but it hasn't been able to breach this trend line here. If you want to know what that really looks like, in John Murphy's book, page 109, you will find a classic example of the head and shoulder reversal. Now, I set a target here by calculating the distance between the top of the head here and the neckline and extending it to the bottom, a target of 807. Not sure we're going to get there. It could still turn out to be a failed head and shoulder reversal pattern, but I'm betting that this is not going to end up good at all for Amazon. In fact, let me read you a small clip here from IBD this weekend. It says, earnings are expected to dive. The e-commerce giant reports late Thursday. Analysts expect EPS of 3 cents, down 94% on revenue of 42 billion, up 28%. Look for Amazon to provide more details on its expansion into groceries after buying Whole Foods. Investors will also focus on the performance of Amazon Web Services, its cloud computing business. But as far as the cloud computing business is concerned, notice that Amazon did not, let me put up the daily chart, they did not actually um, meet the earnings forecast. In fact, earnings dropped in the last quarter. I really think this thing is in trouble, this Amazon. And look at what the daily chart looks like. You see, the last 3 days of the week, it dropped. In fact, I think it was down 19 points for the week. So much for Amazon. Let's take a quick look at the daily chart of Johnson & Johnson, I think it is. Yes, Johnson & Johnson, J&J. We had a triangle here, which I calculated a target of 141.23 from, and we have hit that target. We're now at 142.40. So target hit. If you want to take some profits, this is a good time to take some profits. Some people would sell half their position. Others would hold the whole thing because they're in it for a longer haul. I just wanted to show you what follow-up we do on J&J. And let's look at 3M because there was a similar thing there. With 3M, we calculated a target of 220, and we've hit that target at 221.32. We are now at 221.32, so we hit the 220 target. Same story here. You could sell half or hold the whole thing. It's your choice, your trading style. Let's take a look at some of the stocks now on best choice. Well, we usually start with Apple. So here's the chart of Apple. We can see that it traded up from the 10% line all the way up to the 50 or a little above that. Then it pulled back. Now it's at 28% on the extremes. And what I notice here is that it's really in the buy zone pretty much between the 9 and the 30, the 9 EMA and the 30 weighted moving average. So I'm still holding. I usually use a few different criteria for selling, but Apple is a long-term holding for me. I don't want to trade it that often. But if the 9 crosses below the 30, I might consider selling it for now. Let's look at the seasonals. We have the seasonals telling us that Apple should be in an uptrend at this time. Let's see, October 7th or October 24th. So another reason why I won't sell it exactly at this time. Let's take a look at another stock. And here's Facebook. We could see that the 4 EMA is above the 9 and the 9 is above the 30. The 30 is the green line, as we keep repeating. And so Facebook is now at 32.3 at that extreme. It's not even at 50. And when we look at the seasonals, we can see that toward the end of the year there is this trade from October 10 to October 24. So if you own Facebook, I think this is a good idea to probably hold on for a little while and see where it goes from here. But we do have a nice uptrend. And I can tell you that IBD has set a buy point of 175.59. It is now at 174.98. So hopefully, if you own it, you might get a nice run up here through that buy point. We'll see how that works out. Here's the ETF that was recommended by Terry because he found it in IBD. It's the IBD 50, the ETF, and it's performed very well so far this year and for the last 10, 12 years. Well, not the FFTY, but the 50 that FFTY represents. But the IBD 50 has performed very well in comparison to the S&P. IBD 50 is up 37% for the year to date, and S&P is up 14.3%. So compared to the S&P, the IBD 50, this ETF has done very, very well. By the way, IBD Investors Business Daily is having a free webinar in 2 time slots at 1:30 and at 4:30 on Wednesday, Wednesday, October 25th. So if you would like to tune into that, might be a good idea to see what they have to say about FFTY. It's specifically on that. Go to investors.com/webinar and register. It's free. And here's Netflix, one that I still own and hope to hold it for a while. And you know that they just recently came in with very good earnings. They're increasing their subscriber base overseas in leaps and bounds. And so I love this company very, very much. Um, let's look at the seasonals. You'll see what the seasonals look like. When we go toward the end of the year, we'll see there's a trade from October 25th to November 8th. And the next earnings period would be January 17. So I'm going to hold it for a while. Let's look at something else. Now this next one is NVIDIA. I own this one, of course, and I mentioned that before. It's now at an extreme of 44.8, so it's not overbought. It's halfway between the 10 and 90 lines, so it's okay as far as I'm concerned. The weekly chart, I can't show it here now, but on the weekly chart, it seems to be riding the upper Bollinger Band out of a squeeze. So that's quite positive as far as I'm concerned. If we look at the seasonals, we can see that it seems to run flat between February and August, and then in August-September period, it begins to rise. So we're in that time of the year when NVIDIA seems to do its best. Let's take a look at something else. Here's one of my favorites, Visa. In fact, we've been talking about the payment systems. All these stocks, most of these stocks, I should say, on the payment systems that provide payment systems like PayPal, Visa, MasterCard, Square, all of these stocks on Green Dot that my friend Laura recommended when she did some research on it. All of these stocks have been doing very well, and we like them a lot. So Visa is one, and then MasterCard. If we want to put up MasterCard here, we could do that quickly. And we can see the same kind of a very tight range, and it's now at a 6-day extreme, so it has room at the top. And this is the time of the year when they both do very well. Let's look at something else. And here's a stock that I have on my watch list for some time now, but I don't own it. I wish I did. It's been up from $160 a share around August 1st to over $200 a share today. So, and you can see the tight range, just like Visa and some of these other stocks that we looked at. So I love this one, and I would like to see if I can get an opportunity to buy it. The extreme is only 65, so there's room at the top. And here's a seasonal chart of Align Technology. What they do is they actually develop a technology that the periodontists use to straighten teeth, and they just use the plastic guard, sort of a guard, and they're international, and they're doing very well. The teenagers all have to have their teeth straightened, it seems. In any case, look at the seasonal. The seasonal between November 21st and December 10th, you should get a decent trade there. So I'm looking to see if I could get some of this stock, but I don't have any cash. I'm fully invested. We just have time for one or two more charts. So quickly, here's Hawaiian Air. This is the regression channel. You could see how it broke out here. And if you look at the seasonals, you'll see that this is the time of the year when it tends to run higher. And also, if we look at Alaska Air, we get a similar kind of chart. So that's all we have time for. We'll try to do this again next week. Continue to have a nice weekend, and we'll do this again. Thank you.